Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
Mr. President, what are you doing up there?
Taking a little walk. Come down and talk to us. Good for your health.
What are you doing?
Go to the ballroom, which is on the other side. Are you glad you're Hello, Peter. You're looking good, Peter.
Are you going to move up here?
Something beautiful.
What does that mean?
What do you? More ways to spend my money.
Can you give us another minute?
We'll show you. It's just another way to spend my money for the country.
Are you considering your plan, or?
Anything I do is financed by me, so in other words, contributed. Just like my salary is contributed, but nobody ever mentions that. Are you going to add another medal? What do you want to build? What are you trying to build? Missiles. Sir, can you improve nuclear missiles? Say more missiles? Are you building missiles?
Yeah, it's that bad. It's really that bad. Well, today's date, not July. Oh God. Has we passed July? I'm sorry. Trump being on a roof in the White House. I'm like, did he not learn his lesson the last time he was exposed? I mean, if you do believe somebody did miss 200 yards. But anyway, today's date is August the 6th, 2025, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. How the Frack Got Here. We do take the events of the week and make sense of it all. Before we do get started, let you know we do pride ourselves on being a news podcast, which means we do only cite from sources with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, The Daily Beast, wherever extreme left or extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. At the same time, we do try to watch our language on this show, but words do fly. At the same time, guys, maybe things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, yes, the title of this was the same reason why I wanted to play Taco being on the roof. Is he the man in the high castle? Great series on Amazon Prime, by the way. Or is he simply an idiot on a roof? Because why in the world would a man supposedly targeted make himself openly available on the roof of the White House and give the Secret Service fits? And then at the same time, the awkward talking. Oh, hi, Peter. You're waving at him like a 3-year-old that just waved at a dinosaur at a park. You're looking good, Peter. And then he goes into these rants. You're not about to sit there and tell me this is the same guy who accused Joe Biden of being incompetent, whereas his dumbass literally is incompetent, having a Q&A session from the roof of the White House. This is what it's come to, folks. This is what it's come to, and it's sad. I'm pretty sure other countries outside of our own talk show hosts are making fun of this, as rightly should. Because, again, for a guy who didn't want to be outside because someone supposedly took off his ear, is on the White House roof having a conversation like it's normal. But you're gonna sit there and tell me that that Fat Ankles is competent? Okay. Well, we'll get off Taco for a second and turn our eyes to Texas. Why? Texas having their own little bit of a civil war between Democrats and Republicans.
Good day to you. Just about an hour ago, the Texas House of Representatives gavelled in and then gavelled out again, adjourning amid a contentious Texas-sized redistricting battle. Good afternoon, all. I'm Jay O'Brien, in for Kira Phillips, and that is our top story at this hour. The Texas House was briefly in session before, as we said, it gavelled out because Republicans were unsuccessful in getting the attendance they needed to vote on new congressional maps. It happened just a short bit ago, and again, it's because 50 Democratic state representatives are still absent from the Lone Star State in protest. Here is that moment on the Texas House floor not long ago.
Mr. Guerin moves that the House stand adjourned until 9 a.m. Wednesday. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The House stands adjourned.
We are in and out again. It comes as Governor Greg Abbott and other Texas officials are vowing to arrest those lawmakers who fled the state. And Senator John Cornyn is now urging FBI Director Kash Patel to assist in those efforts. The FBI has declined to comment on that. Let's get to our own Maria Villarreal, who is there in the state capitol in Austin. She has been covering this for the last 2 days now. And Maria, what is the latest there from your perch in the Capitol?
So as of right now, Jay, things have calmed down finally. That's because obviously the House is not in session. But in just a little bit, there will actually be a hearing for that flood committee, where it's a joint committee between the Senate and the House. And there is an expectation that a lot of the Democrats that were on that committee that we just saw having a hearing just last week in Kerrville, that they will not be present. So we're going to go down there in a little bit, just check things out and see what the latest is. But as of right now, there will be no activity on the House floor until Friday. That being said, everybody that was here today is being asked to make sure they check in with the sergeant in arms and also with the Speaker of the House's office to make sure they let them know, hey, listen, we've got to go back to our districts. We got to check in with our constituents and our families, make sure all is okay. But they have to be back here on Friday at 1 p.m.
And you've been on the ground there in Austin, as we said, for days now. What do voters in Texas writ large think about this? Because, as you say, it's not just redistricting, which doesn't impact Texas, but could impact the entire country because it changes the balance of power potentially in the United States House. But there are other issues at play here, too, like that flood assistance.
You know, I think that's a really good point. And it's interesting, right when the hearing adjourned today, and people were coming out, we heard from some Republicans that were very adamant in saying that the Dems that have broken quorum need to be arrested. And then on the other side of it, you just heard from, Representative Morales. He talked about how this creates a dictatorship. And these are the things that we see happening in places like, Latin America. But when you talk to the real people here, not just in Austin, but, back home where I'm from, down in South Texas, a lot of voters are basically saying we are so tired of the political drama that is happening. And a lot of them feel like they are being used, to go back and forth between the Republicans and the Democrats, all dependent on whether they fall in line with, the Trump administration currently. I think there is a sense of frustration that nothing is going to get done, and that really all this is doing is tearing communities apart, pinning neighbors against neighbors. So at this point, I think what voters are asking for is for there to be some sort of compromise and for work to be done. That being said, Jay, listen, the Dems that we have talked to have said we are going to stay out for the long haul. We don't have plans to come back. And if that takes weeks, even months, we're committed to it.
I was just about to ask you that, Mariah.
So, yes, that's the crazy part. The crazy part of this whole story, for all those that don't know, is that the Republicans, as we've sat there and said on this podcast, are worried. You should be worried because Taco basically convinced you to pass his bill, which basically gutted our economy as it is, will give breaks to rich people and corporations, while the middle and lower incomes will be screwed over. Everything will go up in prices. Income will not increase, and therefore Americans will feel it and will feel it in their 401ks and bank accounts. So yes, Republicans believe this is a great idea and try to shovel that mess as a great idea. And as I've said on this podcast, if this bill passes, Republicans are playing political suicide because the midterms are next year. And as I told Democrats, if they were to get their crap together, If Democrats were able to get their crap together and start speaking to people well before election time, to really really get to know their constituents, be more progressive. The moderate Democrats take a back seat. The progressive Democrats take a step forward and start pushing for more progressive agendas and actually start fighting back. I could do without the speeches, honestly. I want to see some action. If they did all these things, then they would be most assured the House and the Senate would be theirs, which would make the last 2 years of Taco's presidency problematic, to say the least. But that's why Republicans are concerned, because they've had their way now. And now it's like everybody's not happy. And Republicans can no longer use, well, we were under Biden's thing, or it's Biden's administration, or somehow Barack Obama is still responsible, although he's been gone for quite a while from the presidential seat. They can't use that excuse anymore. And since they can't use that excuse anymore, now it's like, oh crap, what do we do? We have to make sure that we stay in power, because they can come back in and undo everything. They could take the next 2 years and undo everything. Yes. And hence why Taco and his administration, or I should say his loyalists, are panicking. So what did they do? They look at these states and go, hey, Texas, we need you to do gerrymandering and redraw your districts, because we need to push out Representative Green. We need to push out Representative Jasmine Crockett and 3 other Democratic seats, because I want you to get me 5 more Republican seats in Texas. Why does that not sound familiar? I mean, replace it with Georgia. I want you, when he was talking to the Georgia Secretary of State, I need you to find me 11,300 and some odd votes. And yet somehow that was not election interference. And in this case, somehow this is not redoing democracy. Now, gerrymandering is not a unique concept. It happens once or so every decade to increase the population, because as the population of the state grows, there needs to be fair representation. It's normal, except that now they're pushing it forward and they're trying to ratify it, because if they do, it will give them the 5 Republican seats, because the gerrymandering redistricts have already been done. This is the fastest you've ever seen legislation go through any state legislature. And they are trying their hardest to get this passed. Here's the Democrats, I will give them credit for it. Can't vote on without us. And left the state. All Democrats have left the state of Texas. Governor Wheels Abbott, and I will call him Governor Wheels. I do not care that he's in a wheelchair, not to insult anybody else that's disabled, but in Greg Abbott's eyes, he will be forever called Wheels. Anyway, Wheels has decided that, we're going to issue arrest warrants for everybody that fell at Texas, because here at Texas, we don't run from a fight. Yeah, tell it to Senator Ted Cruz every time Mother Nature shows up. But Representative Jasmine Crockett decides to talk about it, and then I'll get to what Representative Jelanda Jones said, which I think needs to be echoed tremendously.
Joining us now for more is Texas Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Congresswoman, thank you so much, as always, for joining us. Governor Abbott just announced that he has ordered the Texas Department of Public Safety to find and arrest the House Democrats who have fled the state. You're in the Chicago area with some of those Democratic representatives. What's the plan with them? Obviously, at some point, you have to return to the state of Texas eventually. So ultimately, does it seem that it's a foregone conclusion that this bill will pass?
I don't say ultimately. I never say ultimately, because I don't have a give up attitude whatsoever. But right now, the governor has decided that he wants to waste more of Texans' resources by deciding that he's going to send out the troopers. And listen, I don't even think that he's going to do that. I think he's just talking. Earlier today, I posted a copy of the warrant that was signed by the speaker, because it's the speaker of the House that can put the call on the House, not the governor. And no one came to get me last time. In fact, it is a cute little warrant that has a cute little frame on it. And so they like to talk a big game, but the reality is that Number one, you have a lot of intelligent attorneys that actually serve in the Texas House. And so they know that there's nothing that he can do outside of the Texas jurisdiction to bring them in. This is one of the reasons they are in another state. His authority does not extend throughout the entirety of the United States. So he's just talking the big talk so that, he can rile up his base. Ultimately, what will happen, we don't know. I know that we've been in litigation since 2021 over the current maps. I am one of the plaintiffs in that case. And I do know that the state the entire time has taken the position that they issued maps that were race neutral. And then all of a sudden, once they got a letter from the DOJ that talked about race, they somehow flipped the script and they decided that they wanted to do new maps, seemingly at their prompting. So now they're kind of dancing around their position, and now it seems like they're going to flip positions.
You've said that the new maps do nothing but divide, distract, and depress. What's your understanding of how your district will change if these maps do pass?
Yeah, so my district, what they did is they did a thing that we call, they packed my district up and then they cracked minorities from another community. And so what they've did is they've increased the number of African Americans in my district. But while they were cracking out persons from another community and packing them into my community, they also removed all the economic engines, which is yet another red flag. This means that I don't have Southwest Airlines or JSX Airlines or Dallas Love Airport or Downtown or AT&T or Goldman Sachs, and the list goes on of amazing companies and corporations that I'm typically bringing in to make sure that we can talk about economic opportunities for the people that live in my district, including getting rid of the medical center in my district as well.
In response to this plan, we've seen Democrats in states like New York and California say that they would look into redistricting as well. Would you encourage them to do that?
I absolutely do. We are in a fight for the soul of this country. Morality seems to be out the window and legality seems to be out the window. But hopefully we can bring some of that back. And it is going to take a real fight. And sometimes you got to get down on the level that they're on. These people are they're grimy. It is time for us to show other Democrats and even independents, or honestly, Americans, that we are up for this fight, that we are not weak, that we will not allow a bully to punch us in our face and then say thank you and I'm sorry, but instead we are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out. So I fully anticipate that we are going to take control of the United States House, because that is what the American people want. And that is why Donald Trump and his regime is so afraid, because they know that they have not done anything to better anybody's lives, no matter how you affiliate yourself and no matter where you live in this country. He has done something to hurt all of us. And it is time for our voices to be heard, because that is what a democracy looks like.
Texas Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, we so appreciate.
And she's 100% right. She is 100% right as of what they are trying to do. And again, they are scared. And I will say this because it needs to be said. The civilities and niceties, they don't work. Okay. It kills me how folks say, oh, we shouldn't lack our civility. We shouldn't be so modest, in the sense that if they, the whole thing is like, well, it's like Michelle Obama said, if they go low, we go high. With all due respect to Mrs. Obama, and because I'll tell you right now, Mrs. Obama could run and we all would vote for her. Not saying that she should. She, as a Black woman, has done enough as a first lady, more than some presidents have. But I will sit there and say that we need to, like Crockett said, we got to fight. Because here's the thing. We tried niceties and that didn't work. You tried civility. You tried to plead to their humanity, and they turned around and sat there and said, we're going to do what we want, and steamrolled you. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about bullies, and here's the thing about Republicans. They don't respect niceties. They respect force. They respect when you come with overwhelming numbers and you don't stand down. Oh, that's when you have their attention. And so I don't blame Representative Crockett. I do not blame others that have left the state, because that's the only thing you can do. because we keep asking Democrats to fight. We keep asking Democrats no more speeches. We keep asking them to say, look, when are y'all going to finally fight back? This is their way of fighting back. And again, Governor Wheels Abbott decided to say, well, I'm going to issue arrest warrants. And because I have the backing of the taco office, I can do so. Here's how you know Governor Abbott does not know his own laws in his own states. Enter Representative Jolanda Jones, who honestly says the best things. Has summed up Wheels Abbott's response in so many words.
Clear. I'm a lawyer. A part of my practice is criminal defense work. There is no felony in the Texas Penal Code for what he says. So respectfully, he's making up some shit. Okay? He's trying to get sound bites, and he has no legal mechanism. And if he did, subpoenas from Texas don't work in New York. So he gonna come get us how? Subpoenas in Texas don't work in Chicago. He's gonna come get us how? So let me be clear. He's putting up smoke and mirrors. And I'm hopeful that the media doesn't follow that. I will also say this. I was on the redistricting committee. I sat in on the meetings. We had 3 sham hearings with no maps, where people were forced to testify that they were neutral on the maps because of our processes, when actually, I would say about 99.9% of the people were against it. So they set it up. So when the litigation happens, because it's going to happen, trust and believe, right? That there will be testimony saying that everybody was neutral on it, which is, excuse my French, a damn lie. Then when they got the map on Wednesday, and let me be clear, it was the worst kept secret in Texas. I was on the redistricting committee, and I was wondering in January, why am I on the redistricting committee? I mean, it ain't a redistricting year. And we didn't meet once, right? But this was always the backup plan, always. I sat in on the hearings. It was a joke. The chair of the redistricting committee, Cody Vasut, is a lawyer. In the legislature, he is the expert on points of order. He knows the law. Cody pays attention to detail. During the redistricting committee meetings, well, I hadn't looked at anything. I don't know. I ain't seen no maps. Yeah, whatever you say. So you pin on me and you telling me it's raining and you expect me to believe it. Wrong answer. When they finally had the one public hearing with the map, and the secret was out. The stuff is gonna get filed on Wednesday, and we're gonna have a marathon hearing on Friday, is what they said. The plan was filed on Wednesday, and they had a 10-hour meeting on Friday. And the thing that was the most offensive to me as a person who went to these and asked questions about these, and let me be clear, the districts that are targeted overwhelmingly are Black districts, okay? They are pitting Jasmine Crockett against Mark Vesey, and they are pitting Al Green against CD18, where there's a Black representative. If you don't know who sat in CD18, I live in CD18, by the way. Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland, Craig Washington, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Sylvester Turner. So those are the people they're trying to take out. So I'm real upset about it, and my constituents are real upset about it. But it's really interesting that the map person who says that some law firm drafted the maps and he don't know that much about the maps, I felt like I was in a bad edition of an episode of White Man's Burden. For the most part, he told us, grown people speaking to us as if we were kids, said to us, you need to be happy. We didn't have to give you any hearings in the first place, and we know what's best for you. Well, I respectfully submit that they don't know what's best for us. They do not know what's best for us. And let me also be clear. My constituents demanded that I be here. So you think I'm gonna listen to Donald Trump and Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick and the Attorney General, who can't treat his wife right and who lies on documentation? So I think he needs to worry about going to jail. But my point is this: we, the Democratic contingent, we are paying attention to what our constituents are demanding of us. They've literally told us, if you don't quorum break, we will primary you. That's how important it is. People wonder, Why should New York be concerned about what's going on in Texas? Why should anywhere be concerned with what's going on in Texas? I'm going to tell you why. My grandmother says this: if you allow yourself to be a rug, people will step on you. No one was paying attention to North Carolina in 2024. There were 7 Republican Congress people. There were 7 Democratic Congress people. Guess what? The Republicans rigged the game in North Carolina, and they took 3 seats. I'm going to say this one more again. That's Ebonics for those of y'all who don't speak it. They took 3 seats. Congress has a 3 Republican majority. Ding, 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 ding. So we weren't paying attention to what was going on in North Carolina. And look what we have. We got that big, ugly, terrible bill shoved down our throats. So guess what? I was paying attention. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Texas will not be North Carolina. We will not give him what we need. And we're marching. We ain't fleeing. We're fighting. And we are so incredibly thankful that the governor has hosted us, because we need allies.
She's 100% right. For a lot of people to understand, North Carolina picked up 3 Republican seats, all because of gerrymandering. And it was done during the election. And she's 100% right. They're doing the same thing, or I should say trying to do the same thing in Texas. And again, this is why I say you're finally seeing some Democrats saying, no, we're not. No, if the only thing that we can do, and the great John Lewis said the same thing. Great Representative John Lewis said the same thing. Sometimes you got to get in good trouble. Sometimes you have to shake up the establishment, and they're doing so with all the available responsibilities and powers due to them. And Abbott and the rest of those Texans can be pissed, because again, you would think, because he's trying to stand and say, well, we're trying to get flood relief victims the help they need. So shouldn't you just pass a bill that actually helps those flood relief victims instead of worried about representative seats that you can get? It just sounds very bullshitty. It does. Very BS. Even more so, Abbott and those were the same ones that said FEMA had to go. And yet you need FEMA now, considering the fact that Mother Nature found you wanting. But let's be honest, you're doing Taco's bidding. Taco was worried that his Congress may be gone next year, even though his plans for his bill to go into effect are supposed to happen right after those midterms. So there's contingencies for the Republicans, because unless, and I say unless, the Democrats make it a point to undo that bill as their first part of action. Because here's what I would say. Here's what I would say if I'm a Democrat and I'm running for office. You help us get the House, get the Senate. We can reverse this bill that Taco put into place. We can make that our priority. We can bring that up as our first point of the new Congress, as the new 118th, 119th. I'm not 100% sure about that, but either way, I think it's 118th. I think, but again, don't quote me on that because I didn't look it up. My bad. But if I was running in the midterms next year, I would simply say, help us get the House, get the Senate. Our first point of business is reversing everything in that bill. Our first point of business, because here's my thing. The corporate tax rate would be freaking high. The corporate tax rate would be somewhere between between 50 and 60%. Yes, because I do think that inflation needs to drive up the corporate tax rate. I do think that, estate taxes, things of that nature, that's going to go up. And the breaks that were put in for middle and lower class should be reinstituted. I do believe that we should stop giving the military a blank check, and maybe give education a blank check. Maybe give housing a blank check. Maybe, again, reinstituting USAID, reinstituting a lot of things, but also cutting off Israel. I do believe that foreign dollars should not go to Israel. I do believe that welfare queen Netanyahu needs to be finally cut off. But that's just me. If I was a Democrat and I was running and said, this is what I want to do. And again, also making marijuana legal in all 50 states. I don't smoke it, I don't consume it, but I know plenty of people that do. And again, that's a cash crop waiting to happen. Several cities and states have proven that. But if I'm the Democrats, there's your plan. All you have to do is execute it. But don't wait until election year to do so. Because as you can see, those Texas Democrats right now are pretty much putting their lives on hold for a state because they know if Taco has his way, Texas, along with the state, along with its representatives, could keep the Republicans in power for another couple of years. And if you haven't noticed by now, this is just year one. Year one. We are barely 8 months, and it already feels like 2 years. Do you really want to see what year two looks like? I'm just saying. But speaking of Taco, apparently you can have a mean girl in the office that works for you. Enter Laura Loomer.
Talk about this White House, the highest office in the land. There is a name that keeps coming up these days, Laura Loomer, a far-right activist known for her posts on X who celebrates her new role taking down officials in the federal government, getting them fired or their nominations pulled based on what she says is a perceived lack of loyalty to President Trump. ABC News estimates Loomer's pressure campaigns have so far contributed to the ouster of at least 15 individuals from Trump's second administration. As our Will Staken reports in a new piece, Loomer, quote, increasingly carved out an unofficial but influential role as a political enforcer targeting administration officials she sees as disloyal to President Trump. And Will joins me now to talk about all of this. Will Staken, welcome into the studio, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Very good to have you. Great reporting here, very thorough. And I guess the first thing I want to do is bring up a graphic that we actually just put up on the screen, which is a little bit more from your article. And I want to read you this and kind of have you expand on it. It says, so she says, quote, I have communication with the president. I'm a big supporter and I'll remain a supporter. Laura Loomer gave you that quote. It seems that she now has gone from being somewhat of a fringe element, someone who had talked about 9/11 conspiracy theories in the past. She had called herself a proud Islamophobe. And now she's boasting to you and others that she has this kind of direct line of communication, not just to the president, but some of his most senior aides. How did this happen?
Not even just a little bit on the outside. She used to call herself the most banned woman in the country. She's banned on X. She was banned on every platform. She's still banned on some platforms. So not only is she back on these platforms, she's kind of like you said, one of the names that keeps coming up over and over again. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that she has the president's ear and the president trusts her. You see over the weekend, Trump was asked about his relationship with Laura Loomer, and he said he called her a radical, but a patriot. And I think that kind of sums up the relationship from there. He takes her advice, and that because of that, 15 individuals have lost their positions.
And she seems to say that she's carved out this role for herself. She said to you she was kind of running this quasi-unofficial government agency that's vetting people in the government.
Yeah, she says she operates her own independent agency outside the government. She's very, very proud of. And she kind of does in a way. She's obsessed with, posting about, a vetting crisis in the White House and the administration, and, the way this works.
She has longstanding beefs with people in the White House still.
Longstanding beefs, partly because of this. And, the way this has worked so far, the past 6 or so months, is she will find a target, identify them, and often will use those connections, not just with the president, but also with actual cabinet officials. Take those.
She's talking to officials in the cabinet.
She is texting, calling them, sending this research to them, sometimes privately first. And if they're not acting, she will just take it public, and the results sometimes speak for themselves.
So she has a direct line to the federal government in a way that millions upon millions of Americans do not.
Right. Now, she will say, which she told me when we spoke for this article, that that's part of her journalism. She's reaching out for comment. But oftentimes, she's not just reaching out for comment. She wants scalps, as she calls them. She wants people fired that are disloyal in her eyes.
She's made it clear she wants an outcome here.
She wants an outcome. And she's not, shy to brag about it. She often brags about the scalps that she gets. And, that's where she is. And she's continuing, even today, to post more targets that she wants.
So you talked to me about the process of how this comes about. Either she reaches out directly or posts about it on X, and it gets, a viral to her millions of followers. I guess my question then becomes, why does she want to do this? What is her motivation?
So she will say that she's the most loyal supporter to the president. She's just trying to, make sure that the people around him are loyal. The critics are growingly saying, who they're accusing her of being on the payroll of folks that are trying to take out other individuals in the administration. She has flat out denied that. I haven't seen any hard evidence for that. But there's also another element where, she feels and she says that the president has offered her multiple jobs in the administration. And there's people in the White House, in the administration, that have blocked it. So she feels, what she told me was, she's going to continue targeting people in the White House and in the administration who, she finds disloyal until she's able to do it officially in the administration. So far, the folks in the White House who have been long trying to, it's a balancing act. You talk to, sources who only speak on background.
Yeah.
This has been a balancing act for the whole administration, trying to figure out how to manage her close relationship with the White House and, not piss her off to a point where she's going to, take it out on them.
Well, she's made it clear that she's going to keep doing this until she gets a job.
Well, that's what she's told me. We'll see if that happens. I will say she wants to do that in an official capacity.
She's basically an unofficial mean girl, Laura Loomer. And again, she's a loyalist who's now, I guess, being a unofficial mean girl for Trump, which she is. She's going after people that oppose him and using her social media to drag them out, to literally put them on blast. It's a mean girl tactic, and that's exactly what she's doing. But it is amazing to me that, of course, Taco's not going to say anything, because in about a couple of videos from now, we'll see Taco praise the Sweeney girl because she's a registered Republican, and that's stupid as hell. But again, Lorman's like, well, I have great communication with the president. Again, she is a unofficial political mean girl for Taco, and that alone says a lot. But speaking of things that say a lot, imagine that all you did was your job and you still got fired by Taco. Why? Because he accused you of fudging numbers. Happened with a certain group, a certain individual, and again, you can't make this up.
And Trump pledging to announce a new head for the Bureau of Labor Statistics after he fired Commissioner Erica McIntyre on Friday, claiming without evidence that the latest jobs numbers were manipulated to make him look bad.
We had no confidence. I mean, the numbers were ridiculous.
But he has yet to provide any concrete evidence of that. The president's top economic advisors adamant Trump isn't shooting the messenger in the wake of the poor jobs report. But they say he does want his own appointee in place.
The president wants his own people there so that when we see the numbers, they're more transparent and more reliable.
The nonpartisan Bureau of Labor Statistics compiles economic data that has been used by economists, investors, and academics for more than a century. The now fired McIntyre was appointed by President Biden, confirmed by the Senate in January 2024 with overwhelmingly bipartisan support. Even then, Senator J.D. Vance voted for her. The commissioner only sees the jobs numbers a few days before they're released, and revisions to the numbers often happen once more data is available.
This is a preposterous charge. These numbers are put together by teams of literally hundreds of people following detailed procedures that are in manuals. There's no conceivable way that the head of the BLS could have manipulated this number.
William Beach, who was appointed by Trump to serve as BLS commissioner during his first term, sounding the alarm, saying the firing sets a dangerous precedent.
Suppose that they get a new commissioner, and this person, male or female, are just the best people possible, right? And they do a bad number. Well, everybody's going to think, well, it's not as bad as it probably really is, because they're going to suspect political influence.
Democrats decrying the move.
It's classic Donald Trump. When he gets the news he doesn't like, he shoots the messenger.
And at least one Republican is raising concerns.
If the president is firing the statistician because he doesn't like the numbers, but they are accurate, then that's a problem.
Now, the grim jobs report coupled with the president's latest tariffs have spooked Wall Street, sending the stock markets tumbling. Those tariffs affecting nearly every U.S. trading partner are set to snap into effect this Friday.
So what's crazy about this, guys, is that the Bureau of Labor Statistics is not Republican nor Democrat. They go off numbers. They went off numbers for every presidency since its inception. So, of course, like I said, imagine if you are the person that has to deliver the news to Taco Taco saying that his big beautiful bill will create jobs, will do all this, will spurn American produce and things of that nature back up, making America great again. And then the report comes out, and all I can say is I imagine Taco acted like this.
We have no confirmation, but we believe FN 2187 may have helped in the escape.
Yeah, something like that. Because again, how can you honestly, I'm gonna tell you right now, you can't get mad that your numbers shown that, oh, people are hiring less. The number of jobs that are available have dropped almost down to pre-COVID level, almost down to the beginning of COVID levels. And it amazes me so that your response is to fire the person. Oh, well, it's got to be rigged. Okay, you can rig a lot of things. You can't rig numbers from a department that has no allegiance to either side. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has no political allegiance. They deal in data and numbers. Numbers do not lie. And because you didn't like those numbers coming out based on your policies, instead of accountability, you decide to go, no, it's got to be them. They're undercover. I didn't appoint them. Right, because you appoint loyalists. You don't appoint people that do the job. I mean, you almost appointed Matt Gaetz for U.S. Attorney, almost. But instead, we got Pam Bondi, who's about just as useless, except she doesn't have anything, except she's not allegedly paying young underage women for sex. I mean, you almost had people in. I mean, you got in drunk Pete Hegseth, failed Fox News contributor, wanted to bring back the warrior spirit to our armed services. Can't stay sober past 24 hours and is already eyeing his next job, ready to run for governor of Tennessee. See, you don't pick qualified people, Taco. You pick loyalists. Those who will fall on the sword for you if you ask them to. That's what you pick. So, of course, the first thing he's going to sit there and say is, well, I never appointed her. Why would she do that? Why would she do her job? Why would she present the numbers? Because that's her job, to present them to you, unfortunately being our president. And because the numbers didn't agree with you, or you somehow believe that this is a setup because somehow Biden still lives rent-free in your head, that you think the numbers are rigged? Are you effing kidding me? So yes, now he wants to look for somebody with experience and fortitude. Now I think it's kind of funny. The person you fired was approved and actually was there for Biden and got through with Republican and Democratic support. But you want to find somebody, let's be honest, who's basically going to be your professional ass kisser. I'm just saying. But I do want to get back, before we get back to Taco then, because you still have some Republicans being idiots and having town halls. Representative Mike Lee decided to have a town hall and didn't go as well as he hoped.
This morning, voters raising concerns about the economy. At a town hall overnight for Republican Mike Flood of Nebraska, anger erupting over a range of Trump administration moves, including the president's economic agenda.
Why does it seem like when you make your voting decisions, they're based on capital rather than the working class?
With all due respect, sir, the Republican Party now more than ever represents the heart and soul of the working class.
Voters protesting the congressman's support for the president's massive tax cut and spending bill. A new AP poll this morning shows that Americans are concerned about the economy and rising prices. About half those polled consider the cost of groceries to be a major source of stress. And almost 20% of those people have used deferred payment services to fund groceries at some point. New tariffs on dozens of countries are set to lock in place this Thursday, potentially raising prices on a range of goods, including groceries like bananas and coffee, along with products Americans buy beyond the supermarket, with brands like Adidas, Stanley Black & Decker, Mattel, and Hasbro raising prices or planning to do so soon. President Trump is forging ahead, celebrating yesterday's strong markets overnight and raising new threats. The latest warning shot fired at India, with the president saying he will substantially raise the import tax on goods like smartphones, medicine, and clothing unless they stop buying Russian oil. India slamming the threat as unjustified and unreasonable. Still, the president appears unfazed.
Hundreds of billions of dollars is flowing into our country. We've never seen anything even close.
Also this morning, after President Trump slapped a 15% tax.
So I'll get into that momentarily. But imagine Representative Mike Lee is trying to go out and sit there and say, you know, trying to do his constituents. But I think it's kind of funny back in I'm sorry, Mike Flood, not Mike Lee. Mike Flood, Nebraska. Sorry. Is trying to sit there and say, oh, well, we're for the American people. But I think I read the bill. No, you didn't. And I love the fact that Republicans are still trying to do this and thinking that it's working for them. It's not. But I say this to everybody because every time I look at a state that's very ticked off about the way things go, I go back to our previous election and I will go, you guys voted for Trump. You now are starting to feel exactly what we've been warning you about this entire time. Because again, we sat there and said, and I even give our VP, our former VP Harris, Madam VP Harris, I will give her all the credit in the world. She sat there and called almost everything this man was going to do when he got into office. And again, price hikes is one of them. And speaking of price hikes, well, get ready to go to the grocery store and pay more.
From the produce aisle to meat, fish, and dairy. This morning, new transparency from some stores about how tariffs are impacting your grocery bill.
No one wants to talk about tariffs. Why are you talking about it? And are you worried it's going to hurt business?
What am I going to hide? You might as well just be honest and speak from the heart.
Stu Leonard Jr. runs a chain of popular grocery stores in the tri-state area. In a recent newsletter to customers, he openly addressed tariffs, saying he's committed to keeping prices the same by absorbing the existing 10% tariff on many imported foods.
Our importers said I'll split it with you.
You're absorbing the cost right now.
I'm absorbing the cost.
Will you continue to absorb the cost?
No, I won't. I can't afford to.
Starting tomorrow, new tariffs of 15 to 50% will take effect on many food imports, jacking up prices on produce from Central and South America, like bananas, pineapples, peppers, and cucumbers. And popular seafood from Indonesia and Vietnam now facing levies of up to 20%, double the previous rate. Higher tariffs also hitting imported coffee, olive oil, meat, and cheese.
The price went up on the Reggiano Parmesan, so I cut the wedges smaller. So they're only $10 each.
Also impacted European spirits. With pre-tariff inventories running out, you may see price hikes on wine from France and Italy. If so, Leonard says consider buying American.
It's a lot less expensive. Will there be a shift in wine, say, for instance, from Europe to Napa Valley or Washington State?
Leonard promises to disclose any price bumps from tariffs to his customers. But when we asked other supermarket chains if they plan to do the same, none would comment. President Trump has posted that retailers should eat the tariffs. Rick Volpe is professor of agribusiness at Cal Poly.
Retailers are going to be very careful and cautious about increasing prices and advertising that.
Shoppers we spoke to say they want stores to be honest about tariffs.
I think we appreciate that because we want to be an informed consumer, and being able to budget and plan accordingly is helpful.
I don't think businesses should eat all the tariffs either. I mean,
I agree.
We should be aware of how these policies are affecting us on a day-to-day level.
Another tariff impacting food prices, the 50% levy on imported steel and aluminum, metals commonly used in grocery packaging. Experts say it could soon raise prices on dozens of products.
Packaged, processed, prepared foods, foods that rely more heavily on storage. So, of course, we're talking about beverages, we're talking about canned foods, we're talking about foods that rely on foil or metal containers.
There is some good news. Because of reciprocal tariffs overseas, sales of some American foods like lobster have slowed, leading to higher supplies and lower prices.
We've lowered these lobster prices $1 each.
That's significant.
Yeah, so enjoy your lobster.
Another tip to avoid tariff price hikes, experts say stock up now on imported wine, spirits, and coffee, canned goods like sodas, and imported meat and seafood. Buy it fresh and you can freeze it for up to several months. Good advice for consumers weary of paying more at the grocery store.
When you hear about tariffs, when you hear about price hikes, what do you think as a consumer?
I think at some point it needs to stop.
Yeah, it will stop when you no longer can pay. But again, I will give that guy credit. He at least sat there and was like, you know what? I will eat the cost for now. And I love it. I love it. She just said, well, will she continue to eat the cost? No, he can't afford to. And like we said many times in this podcast, the cost is going to pass on to the consumer. You will be the one paying more because they still got to get profits in. So we are dealing with a capitalist house of cards here. But again, this is supposedly supposed to bring money into our economy, forcing people to buy American when a lot of restaurants, businesses, and people, individuals, again, buy other products that are non-American. But like I said, we will see, because eventually this should be more ammo for the Democrats to use as they are trying to take back the House and the Senate next year. Again, Exhibit A. Just saying. But let me get back to Taco again, because we talked about this last week, this stupid American Eagle ad. And I say stupid because not stupid in the fact that, Sydney Sweeney has great genes. No, it is as someone American Eagle thought it was a cute play on words, it's actually a lot worse. But it doesn't help that you have every old white ass man really deciding to whip out his junk and enjoy themselves to this ad. And I mean, all of them came out and said it, even Mr. Taco himself.
The White House is reacting to the controversy over Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle ad. The ad's getting attention for its play on the word jeans, as in denim pants, and genes as in genetics. Critics say it plays on themes of eugenics. Now a second ad, this time from Dunkin', is drawing similar scrutiny. ABC's Andrew Dimbert has the latest.
If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic.
The controversy over Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle ad has reached the White House.
My jeans are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has great genes.
The ad gained attention last month for its play on the word jeans, as in denim pants, and genes as in genetics, many saying it plays on the themes of eugenics.
The American eugenics movement in its prime between like 1900 and 1940 weaponized the idea of good genes just to justify white supremacism.
My genes are superior, and by that, I mean white with blonde hair.
But some saying that connection may be going too far.
That might be a bit of an overreaction. Although Hitler did briefly model for mine comfort fit jeans.
As far as I'm concerned, y'all be looking way too deep into.
The controversy has gone political, pitting right-wing.
The nonsense where you are not allowed to ever celebrate someone who is white and blonde and blue-eyed.
Against left-wing.
It's not that they want to see more white women. It's that they want to see none of anyone else.
And now a second ad, this time from Dunkin', featuring actor Gavin Castellano, drawing similar scrutiny.
This tan? Genetics. I just got my color analysis back. Guess what? Golden summer. Literally.
Critics quickly noting the timing and drawing parallels to Sweeney's campaign.
Talking about genetics? It's weird. It's weird.
No comment from Dunkin'. But American Eagle is defending its ad, saying it is and always was about the genes, her story. Great genes look good on everyone.
American Eagle stock soared after the ad came out. It's up about 5% since last month.
And it just goes to show you folks that no matter what, whenever it comes to white people will white people. And it's amazing that, President was like, "Oh, she's a registered Republican. I love Sweeney jeans. I love blue jeans. I love her." Typical. But the thing I wanted to point out is that there is a lesson behind blue jeans, and I don't think it's ever been really talked about, but it does have its connections with African Americans. And if you don't know, the next 5 minutes will tell you.
People don't necessarily think about how their blue jeans came to be blue. Historically, that's because of the indigo dye. Centuries ago, indigo was said to be worth its weight in gold. Competition for it was so fierce, Europeans actually called it the devil's dye.
Indigo is, in fact, a weed. The process of turning indigo from this small green leaf into a dye is a very delicate process. So only the most skilled are able to do this.
One of the neatest things about dyeing with indigo is the dye vat is green. It's not blue. And when you introduce a fabric like denim to the dye vat, it comes out green. And then as it oxidizes in our atmosphere, it turns blue. It is magic. Indigo dyeing is magic.
In many cultures, indigo cloth has a spiritual importance. In Africa, the cloth is considered the next layer to the skin. It holds the person's soul, their spirit. Africans have had a long history of working indigo and knew the special process involved in making the dye and dyeing cloth.
And of course, many African captives who became enslaved in the New World brought with them knowledge of how to extract the blue from the plant and how to fix the blue to fabrics. Indigo is one of the ways in which slaveholding became tied to the economic fortunes of the colonial experiment in the Americas.
So in the mid-1700s, there was this labor that had been extracted from Africa, and indigo presents itself as this thing with economic possibility. And then when you add to it moving the dye stuff from one end of the world to the other, it only increased in value. And Eliza Lucas benefited enormously from the impact of this trade.
Eliza Lucas has been credited as literally producing indigo in America. She's been credited as a botanist. She's even written about in elementary school and high school textbooks.
Eliza Lucas was a daughter of a colonial governor. She had studied botany, and when Eliza was a teenager, her father bought her, among many other plants, indigo.
The gift came from perhaps Antigua. The South needed something to add to crop rotation, and tobacco was something cultivated here. Rice was cultivated here. Adding indigo into your crop rotation was a way to find additional profit.
Once Eliza gets her hands on the indigo seeds, it takes off in terms of production. Indigo was the second cash crop behind rice in South Carolina. And on the eve of the American Revolution, more than 1 million pounds of indigo was being shipped overseas. Eliza Lucas was probably one of the most well-known producers of indigo in colonial America. But Eliza's hands weren't blue. She didn't get her hands dirty with the indigo crop. The knowledge to grow indigo came from enslaved people. They're the ones that did the work that allowed her to become this great planner that she's been credited for.
Indigo really encapsulates this problem of how do we begin to tell the story of captive people and how we document their contributions in America and to the denim history in particular.
We know the names of all the enslaved people that were owned by the Lucas and Pinckney family.
Isaac, Pompey, Molly, and their child, Manny. Mary, her children, Prince and Becky.
These are generations of families. We're not just talking about a husband and a wife or a mom and a dad. We see grandparents on this list.
Annie and her children, Juno.
They're the ones that came from communities that dyed all kinds of cloth, beautiful colors.
Their daughter, Onaya.
They're the ones that had the knowledge of indigo and created generations of wealth for these white slaveholding families.
And this is why education is important. The fact that blue jeans actually do carry a lot of activism as well as historical facts. Just saying, this is the reason why education is important. And since that did come from PBS, guys, we do got to talk about this as well. That the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, again, they gave us PBS, NPR, shows like Sesame Street, Contact. You know, I can keep going down the list here. But unfortunately, because $1.1 billion in funding that's usually scheduled for them was, thanks to Taco, taken away from them because Taco apparently needed a new ballroom, did lead to this, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting will actually be winding down operations. And again, this is one of those things to where it's sad. It's sad because, again, if you're like me, you got raised up with a lot of shows. PBS NewsHour, Downtown Abbey was also on PBS. There was a lot of great classics. I can't think of them all at the same time, but I know for a lot of kids, you had Arthur, you had Wishbone, Ghost Rider, 321 Contact, Conjunction Function, Sesame Street. I can keep going down the list of all the shows that have been on PBS. And again, it is amazing that Taco tried to accuse PBS, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, of saying that, well, they're liberal bias. They're programming children, which they never have. If anything, they've taught children. They've taught kids like me and kids before me. And I was hoping one day, you know, even my kids watch PBS, mainly because of Sesame Street. But still, there were so many educational programs that did come from this. And now, because of the fact that funding has been removed, despite a lot of people writing their congressmen saying, hey, don't approve this. We need this programming because, again, it's for the American people. That's why it's subsidized for that. But leave it to Taco and leave it to his group's loyalists. They want to remove education. You want to know why you remove education? You remove education because that's how you get ignorant, obedient people. That's why they always say the first thing to go is education. There's a reason why they attack colleges. They attack college students for speaking out. They attack teachers for teaching beyond the curriculum or teaching the right way of teaching history or any other subjects. They go after all these organizations that simply educate and lead kids in the right direction because George Carlin said it best. They don't want critical thinking, highly processing individuals. They want worker bees. They want worker bees that do nothing more than what they've been told to do and the fear of what happens if they don't. And trust me when I say this, with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting going away, that in itself is literally the tip of the freaking iceberg. I am just saying. But that also being said, guys, we do got to get to Pam Bondi because I don't know why Trump's lapdog decided that this need to be done. This, I think, is the fact of the distraction from the Epstein files that won't go away. But apparently, AG Pam Bondi has decided that she wants to look into President Obama's actions, or should say his elected leaders, to see whether or not they did interfere in the election. I wish I could make this up.
The Trump administration, a senior official says the attorney general has directed the Justice Department to launch a grand jury investigation into how Obama-era officials assessed Russian interference way back during the 2016 election.
Yeah, the move comes after National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard said last month that she was sending criminal referrals to the Justice Department.
She alleged that top Obama administration officials carried out a, quote, treasonous conspiracy against then candidate Donald Trump. Well, Democrats are dismissing this as an effort to distract attention from the Jeffrey Epstein case.
NBC News White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard joins us now to talk about this and some other headlines out of Washington. Vaughn, good morning. So past probes, including 2 conducted by Republicans, found no crimes committed by Obama-era officials. So what are we learning about this investigation? Is it going to be conducted any differently?
Right. Good morning, guys. It's all very good question here. And I think we need to start off by saying this process has not been normal. Typically, grand jury proceedings are secret. The Department of Justice never goes and publicly announces that they're impaneling a grand jury to investigate and potentially indict any individuals of criminal wrongdoing. This is just not normal. The second part that is not normal about this is to have an Attorney General, Pam Bondi, make the announcement, but not explicitly say where this investigation is taking place. NBC News has seen the letter in which there's an unnamed prosecutor in a particular district who is going to be sought after to go forward with this investigation here, but there's not even specific alleged crimes that have been named by the Attorney General. Now, we can glean from past weeks the suggestion that potentially conspiracy against rights is a potential crime that they will try to prosecute or investigate. But what is being alleged is questionable to the extent that it amounts to an actual crime. Former DOJ officials who have spoken to NBC News have called this all a political stunt. They are alleging that back in 2017, after then candidate Trump won the presidency, there was an effort by the Obama administration to undermine his incoming presidency by suggesting that he and his campaign had colluded with Russia. But as you noted, there was a 3-year investigation by special counsel John Durham, who was appointed by then President Trump's attorney general. He ultimately found no conspiracy, brought no charges of that kind. And there was a bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee report that was chaired by then Senator Marco Rubio, who in 2020 also declared that, in fact, Russia had meddled in the 2016 campaign. So there's a lot of question marks ahead, but this is a very abnormal process. And of course, they would have to ultimately not only impanel that grand jury, but then provide evidence and convince those citizens of Americans to bring indictments against any of these former officials.
I'm lost. Haven't we seen this before, just a different setting? Hillary Clinton's emails, private server, Benghazi. I just feel like, why is it whenever, maybe this is just me. Maybe it's just me. Why is it whenever Republicans get in office for something, they feel this overwhelming need to turn around and look and waste taxpayer dollars, government resources to look into something that isn't even a thing? I'm like, this reminds me of people that are this reminds me of people in management that literally have nothing better to do but decide to go over to look into stuff just to, validate their reason for positioning. Pam Bondi, of all people, I do not get it because she's a Trump lapdog. She is a Trump lapdog. And yet you won't do your job with the Epstein files. You won't do your job with the prosecution of law enforcement in this country. You won't do your job except for when Taco tells you to. And Taco needs all the distractions from the Epstein files he can, because that's all everybody can talk about. Because again, it's fairly obvious he knows Epstein. It is fairly obvious he's been on that island. It is fairly obvious that he has appeared in the Epstein files. That Pam Bondi says didn't exist, but did exist one time on her desk. But now she can't share them. And that's a whole nother mess in itself. Trump needs the distraction. And again, whenever it comes to Republicans, every presidency always has a useless investigation. Here's Tacos. But speaking of Taco, the last thing I got on him is because now he is saying that he vows or tells drug makers to lower the cost of prescription drug costs in 30 days. This is the same man that sat there and said, I can lower grocery bills. And then we found out he couldn't. This is also the same man that sat there and said, oh, I can get energy costs down. No, and he couldn't. And now you're going to stand and tell me that you are now saying that, hey, I'm going to give drug makers a month to come down on cost. Right.
Is NBC News health and medical reporter Berkeley Lovelace Jr., who's been digging into this. And I read your piece on NBCnews.com that really helps to explain what's going on here. So the president said in his remarks today that prescription drug prices will drop, quote, almost immediately. How realistic is that idea?
Yeah, so he did say that White House, they actually walked that back a little bit. They actually said we expect relief very soon and we expect the drug makers to come to the table very soon. So not exactly immediate, but there are questions on whether or not Trump will be able to get this done and whether he has like the legal authority to do this. Right now, you'll recall the Biden administration negotiated drug prices under Medicare, but that was passed under Congress, not an executive order. And so this policy from Trump is much broader. So he's saying that it will not only go after Medicare, but also will go for drugs under Medicaid and private insurance as well. He even mentioned the weight loss drugs, Ozempic and Wegovy, saying that they'll target those as well. But there's still a lot of questions of whether or not he has the authority to go after all these drugs under commercial markets as well.
So I'm curious about the reaction to this. We know the president signed a less aggressive version of this executive order during his first term. There was pushback from the drug medication industry at that time. How is the pharmaceutical industry responding this time around? How might they respond going forward?
Yeah, so as you know, they did block Trump's original version of that plan as well. And so they are already pushing back now. We're already getting responses. AstraZeneca responded today to us. Pharma, the drug industry trade group, also responded to us. They said that we should instead focus on insurance companies and middlemen rather than pharmaceutical companies, which is a very common line of argument from them. No lawsuits yet, but we should expect more lawsuits to come.
Yeah, I want to play something for our viewers, something the president said earlier today. Watch this.
The pharmaceutical companies make most of their money, most of their profits from America. Basically, what we're doing is equalizing. There's a new word that I came up with, which I think is probably the best word. We're going to equalize, where we're all going to pay the same.
So, Berkeley, can you sort of help us fact check some of what we just heard here from the president? This idea that Americans are paying more than folks in other countries, or pharmaceutical companies are making more from Americans here. What exactly are the differences sort of between what other wealthy nations are spending on medication versus the U.S.?
Yeah, so that's actually true. So we do have the highest drug prices in the world. We pay something like up to 10 times more than what other wealthy nations pay. A lot of that has to do with the fact that drug companies in the U.S. have basically had free reign to charge whatever they want or whatever the market will bear. Other countries, other wealthy countries, they often negotiate their drug prices. And so I do find it interesting, though, that the Trump administration has not been supporting the Biden Medicare drug pricing negotiations because they are able to negotiate prices under Medicare. I think today on the White House call, they called the pricing negotiations inadequate and said that this policy instead would be much broader. But that policy was passed under Congress, so it is a viable avenue for them to target. So it's something that I'm watching as well to see whether or not they end up supporting that as well as along with this.
And a lot of other people are watching. We know so many families are impacted by these costs of medication.
Okay, so again, I just want to point this out because he pointed it out. Drug companies in the U.S. can set whatever prices they want. Although if you do believe the drug manufacturers, it is not us to set the prices. It's the insurance companies. The health insurance companies going back and saying, no, it's the drug companies that make the price. Remember a long time ago I said people are basically the ping pong ball between health insurance companies and drug manufacturers, that they swear either one of them, they point the finger at the other person about who covers the price, but both of them are rich while you are paying somebody. So again, Taco, you're sitting there telling me you can't get grocery prices down. You can't get the price of eggs down. You can't get energy costs down. You can't get the cost of gas down. But you're going to go to U.S. drug makers and say, you guys lower your prices in 30 days or there will be problems. While these companies have free reign over how they control their pricing. Do you remember when I stood there and said that Trump is basically trying to distract everybody from the Epstein files? Don't look over here, but look over there. Because as he said, Biden already has it in place under Medicare to negotiate drug prices. There was a cap on insulin at $35. That cap was just removed by the current administration, by the current legislation. They removed the cap off prescription insulin. Because again, remember, insulin was freaking high and corporations were just racking it up. People were rationing insulin, which again is not a good thing to do if you're diabetic. It's not. At the same time, folks had to choose between medication or rent, medication or food, medication or transportation. You get the point I'm making. You get the point I'm saying. But at that one time that Biden was able to get that through, prescription drug costs for insulin was capped at $35. Now, Taco could use that same thing. But again, Taco does not want to use anything that Biden put in place because he wants to sit there and say he fixed the problem himself, like a big boy. The man-child wants to be a big boy. And so he is telling, from shouting from his roof like an idiot, saying that either you guys are going to come down in prices or there'll be consequences. Drug companies are going to sit there and say, throw money at his campaign and say, run along, little boy. They're going to throw money at his campaign and say, here's $1 billion. Go back on the roof and go be that little man child that you are. And you know what Taco's going to say? Okay. And never talk about it again. Or come back and interview and say, there was a lot more going on and we just couldn't, the prices can't be lowered. They've got to make a profit. I guarantee he'll say something crazy like that. That's just being honest with you. And the more, again, distracting you from the Epstein files. But just saying, that's usually the way it goes. We do have some good news for our Feel Good News segment. Again, this was actually just not too long ago that all major Las Vegas strip casinos are now unionized. Again, I have said this before. If you're not a part of a union, form one or join one if one's available. Corporations hate unions, no matter what they say. If the CEO is not encouraging unions, form a union. You should above all else, because nobody should negotiate with corporations by themselves. You will not get very far. There's safety and strength in numbers. We keep talking about the fact, guys, that corporations are all worried because unions are forming, as they should. We covered every union that actually had a strike or was forming a union so far, especially with Amazon. Amazon is doing their best to do union busting, even though they have violated, in my opinion, several labor laws, and they should pay more than fines. But again, unions work, especially in Las Vegas. One of the biggest cash cows we have in this country is Vegas, because there are no winners in Vegas except the casinos. But that being said, the workers there, especially on the strip, because that strip alone, I guarantee, accounts for a quarter of what's being brought in to the state of Nevada. And imagine you're a part of that and you are not getting health care. You are not getting enough to make a livable wage. There it is again. There it is again. Where people usually strike anyway, not getting enough to live off a wage, not getting enough coverage for health support, 401ks, things of that nature. And now, under this new union, they're getting that. So I am not knocking that. But at the same time, it's amazing that I keep talking about the fact that unions work. And it's amazing how no one has sat there and said, no, being in a union has been terrible for me. And yet, I cannot find a story that says otherwise. So shout out to Las Vegas strip workers that are now unionized. Get what you're owed and then some. But we're going to go move on to our Feel Good segment, because usually on How the Frack Got Here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes makes you the faith in humanity. But hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow's hump day. Going back to school for a lot of kids. So hopefully you kids are enjoying your first day of school. Some who are seniors are probably enjoying the beginning of the last day of school. Hopefully you guys have a great school year. I know I sent my son off earlier today, and peace. Anyway, I'll leave you guys on some good notes, some good vibrations. I have never seen a nun that praised the Lord and did dead weights at the same time. But I got to share the story.
America strong. The Bible says I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. One nun took it to heart. Sister Pat Farrell has always prayed for strength. It's just that now she does it a little more literally.
I like to think that I'm carrying on part of our tradition in service of others for the gospel.
The 72-year-old nun is a member of the Dominican Sisters of San Rafael in California. She lives here at this convent and has just taken up weightlifting.
Press.
For the past 4 months, Faith and fitness for her have gone hand in hand here at the Yard, a gym she frequents in San Francisco.
And they really grew over these 4 months. It's really amazing.
Her gym mates and trainers are impressed.
Absolutely blown away. Man, she made an impact.
These are my gym bros.
She initially started training to improve her health, but she's now taking it to the next level, competing in her first powerlifting competition, benching 77 pounds and deadlifting 160 pounds, which is more than her body weight, winning first place for Masters women in her weight class. Perhaps answered.
Again, she can answer you in prayer or she can deadlift you. Either way, I don't want to find out. But again, that motivates me because, you know, I like to work out. But again, a powerlifting nun, you cannot beat that with a stick. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. Thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. First and foremost, shout out to APR TV, an app that you can find on the Roku channel, Amazon Fire TV. Why? Because How the Frack We Got Here can be seen on APR TV. Definitely check them out as it streams on all smart devices and other shows on there as well. Also, BlurStation.com. You guys have heard me talk about this for going on a year plus now. Again, it is a streaming service that has our kind of content, which deserves our viewership, most importantly, our dollars. $10.99 a month to stream Blur Station. Definitely check them out at BlurStation.com. You will not be disappointed. Also, runforoffice.org. I know there are other sites out there that if you are interested or feel the need or call to serve politically, whether it's locally or nationally, there are other sites like this out there. I point this out because it's the easiest one. Because again, I keep saying, guys, you want to see the crazy ones did it, how Moms for Liberties did it, how they got elected. This was the step. Don't know what to do? Go to runforoffice.org, type in your address, and it'll begin the process of how you can get your name on the ballot. How you can approach your constituents, and hopefully that you will be able to run, win, and get elected and serve, whether it's the city, whether it's the state, or the United States government. Either way, runforoffice.org. Now, ask myself, guys, How the Frack We Got Here all together can be found on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and TikTok. Like, share, and follow, because again, I know I say this all the time, because much like NPR and PBS, we cannot do this without you. We really cannot do this without you. Your support means everything. Your repost, letting people know this is live, all that means everything to us here at the How the Frack We Got Here. So we do thank you for that. We do thank you for the likes. We do thank you for the shares, the streams, but definitely support any way you can and how. Also for myself, Black_Spartan615 can also be found on YouTube. You can like and follow me there as I stream all of my shows from there as well. And again, I'm easy to talk to. Just don't make it weird. I don't have to start blocking people and that kind of thing. But I cannot stress this enough, guys. The midterms are next year. I know I've harped on Democrats, and now it's time to do the groundwork. Now is the time to get to know your constituents. But at the same time, folks, it's not just them. We do our part as well. Get to know the people that are running, because it's not just representatives and senators. It is going to be governors. It's going to be, depending on your state, because I know in mine, Tennessee, we're voting for a new governor next year, and I cannot wait to get rid of Governor Lee's dumbass. And I hope to God Marsha Blackburn doesn't get elected, but that's a whole nother thing. Know the people that are running, get to know the candidates, ask them the questions that need to be asked, because I do hope in the near future I can have guests on here. I'm hoping for 2. I'm crossing fingers on right now, but I don't have a confirmation yet. But when I do, I will be the first to shout from the rooftops. But get to know your constituents, get to know their stance on issues. They are representing you in office. And again, it doesn't help to vote just because they're Democrat or Republican. You really get to know where they stand, because that's going to make the difference in our next Congress. But with that being said, guys, last thing is about How the Frack We Got Here. It's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are giving you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past, making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors. Maybe one day electing our first Black woman to be called Madam President. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up at our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians in Congress, but the same game is still being played? And most importantly, How the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I promise we will get through this. Hopefully. Peace.